guys, Squishybee here. Today is May 18th, 2022, and today I'd like to go over some of the things that are in the news. There's obviously so much going on in the news right now that we can't cover it all, but I thought I would cover some of the main gist of a few of the things that I noticed this week that's going on. So, the first one I came across was the one where Russia opens fire on Israeli jets over Syria. This is obviously an important area to watch because the Bible tells us that all of the end times revolves around Israel. So we have to keep a very close eye on that area. So this report goes on to say, the reports indicated that the Syrian military fired off dozens of anti-aircraft missiles at the Israeli jets, as well as Syria's S-300 batteries that are operated by the Russian military and cannot fire without their approval, were also used against the jets. The reports also claimed that S-300 radar did not manage to lock onto the Israeli jets. Russia, a close ally of Syria's Bashar al-Assad, has forces based and operating in Syria. We're waiting to see people surround Israel and start trying to attack them, and then God himself intervenes. It'll be very interesting to see what goes on in that area. But this is kind of getting there. It's a little bit kind of exciting. Not good, but for those who are waiting for the rapture of the church, for believers, this is exciting times to see all of this stuff coming to pass around us like a checklist. And so we're going to keep a close eye on what's going on in Israel. Next up, Russian coup against Putin already underway, Ukrainian General says. A top Ukrainian military official has said that a coup to overthrow Russian President Vladimir Putin is underway and cannot be stopped. Major General Kirill Budanov told British broadcaster Sky News that if Russia lost the war in Ukraine, Putin would be removed and his country would collapse. It will eventually lead to the change of leadership of the Russian Federation. Budanov told the outlet, "This process has already been launched." When pressed on whether he believed a coup was already in train, he responded yes, adding that they are moving in this way and it is impossible to stop it. I don't know what to think about this, if this is true or what. There's so much misinformation back and forth between those two countries. You never know what's actually true. I'll tell you one thing, though, that I should have mentioned a while back, but I prayed about it and just kind of thought on it for a long time and wasn't really quite sure what to make of all of this. But I had two separate dreams that I believe were related to this stuff years ago. And I mentioned one to you guys about the two bears, the dark colored bear and the light colored bear battling and fighting each other. And then they, remember, they went into the grocery store where my husband and I were shopping, and they just started attacking all of the people in there, and everyone just started climbing up on the shelving and were just throwing all of the food, the jars and bottles and stuff at these bears, trying to defend themselves to the point where there's like nothing left on the shelves because they were just shooting all of these cans and bottles at these bears trying to attack it. And now when you look back at that, I'm starting to think that maybe that dream was like a symbolic warning of Russia and Ukraine fighting it out, because it's kind of like Russia's known as the bear, and since Ukraine is a part of Russia, it's kind of like also a bear because it's still part of Russia, but then they're split in color because they've kind of branched off on their own, and they're kind of fighting it out. But I'm wondering if the symbolism of the grocery store was connected to the food shortages that are as a result to what's going on in Russia. Because, I always thought it was just kind of strange that this all took place. Why bears? I think that a lot of times God uses symbolism in dreams to try to warn people. And for those of you who have been here from the beginning, hopefully you remember that dream that I told you about this before. But another dream that I had that I never mentioned because I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing with this, because I had a dream years ago, back around the same time that I had this dream with the bear. I had a dream that I was invited to this party with Putin. And Putin came up to me, and he was coughing. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "No, he whispered, he leaned in, and he was like, "No, I'm really very sick. And, but I don't want anybody to know about it." And so I was like, "You need to do something about this. You can't just leave this. You got to get it checked." And he just kind of brushed it off and just was ignoring it, not doing anything about it. And so after I had this dream, I wrote to him in real life. I wrote to him and told him about this dream and warned him. I was like, I think there might be something seriously wrong with your health, and you need to check it out, because I had this dream, and I've had several dreams now that have all come true. And so I wrote to him about this, and I also shared with him a bit of my testimony on what a bit of my background was, and I told him about what I feel he should be doing with respect to Christianity, and that he should be prepared that the end times are coming, and that the Antichrist will be coming. I kind of explained what was coming, and that I thought it's possible he could be the king of the north, and that he might do battle with this Antichrist, and that he should really, if he wants to be saved, and this is how and stuff. And it was right after that he put out this really strange video, right after I had sent him that letter, and I was like, this is just such a strange confirmation, it seems like, from God, because he put out this weird video of him getting dunked in water in this cold environment with the Russian Orthodox Church people, the leaders, and he was getting baptized, it looked like. And so I was like, what is going on? This is so strange. And so I don't know, I thought I had sent him 2 letters back then, actual physical letters that I mailed to him, and they were both within a week or two, because I had sent him one that was explaining the dream, and then I sent him one that was telling him about what my input was, basically. Not that I ever really thought that he would read it, but I had to at least obey God and do what was the right thing, because if he needed to know that if he was sick, that he needed to get treatment. And now that it's coming out that he might have cancer, because for a while I was like, I bet he had COVID. I bet he secretly had COVID and didn't want anyone to know. But now that it's coming out saying that he has cancer, I'm like, maybe that's what it was. It's just really strange. I would really be interested in knowing what kind of cancer he has. The reason why I thought he had COVID was because he was coughing. So, anyway, it'd be really interesting to know. So the next one is a very personal story that I wanted to go over with you. A friend of my daughter's that was a coworker years ago that had been missing for years, back in 2009. She was just found dead this past week, which is really upsetting. Her name is Brittany Drexel, And she was walking on the very same beach in South Carolina that my husband and I had just been walking on. It's really upsetting to think that she was taken off of that beach, because we had really hoped all this time that maybe she just run away. You know, maybe she was just off somewhere with a secret boyfriend, you know, being stupid, what stupid kids do. You know, kids at that age, they just rebel against their parents. But no, she definitely was not. She'd been dead for quite some time, actually. The article says, Brittany Drexel, murder suspect, was longtime person of interest, was pulled over by cops the day after the teen vanished. Raymond Moody was pulled over for speeding in Surfside, South Carolina, the day authorities say Drexel was buried in the woods. And this is the guy. And what really upsets me, a couple things here, and quite typical, this guy had already been in prison for raping a 9-year-old girl, and then on top of that, he was a person of interest and they did nothing with him. So since 2009, when they first suspected this guy, and when they just found Brittany's body last week, you gotta wonder who else he might have messed with in that amount of time. This is 2022. That's a long time that this guy was on the street. And someone like this does not just attack someone and then just go years without doing. That's their thing. Okay, they're sick, or they're demon possessed. There's something going on with this person, and they're not going to just leave it go for that many years and not do something. So I'm wondering if they're going to end up finding other people that were victims as well, because so much time passed that this guy was just loosey-goosey on the street, able to do whatever he wants, and he sees how much he gets away with this crap, and they just let him out. So what is the deterrent? They have no deterrent. So it goes on to say, according to the Democrat and Chronicle, that's the DNC is a paper that is local here where I live. It says, Moody is a registered sex offender who spent 21 years in prison following a 1983 abduction and rape case in California involving a 9-year-old girl. See what I mean? And, you know, he took Brittany from South Carolina all the way on the opposite coast from where he had done this with this other girl. So what good does it do to have people on these stupid lists? Because what does this do? They obviously, it means nothing. They just go right out and do it anyway. What you need to do is put these people away forever. They should not be able to get back out where they can do this again. I just don't understand any of the common sense that's lacking in this country, in this world. But this country in particular, they baby these people, because I think a lot of the people that are in power and making these decisions are this type of people, if you know what I mean. Okay? So, and I say that from witnessing with my own eyes. The next one goes on to say, please, by the way, please pray for the family of Brittany. Her parents, her mom in particular, said that she had a really bad feeling that something was going to go wrong, and she did not want her going out with this group of friends that night, and she went out anyway. That's what kids do. Kids just, they don't listen. And but in any case, that is the urging of the Holy Spirit. God will give people warnings. Don't trust that feeling, okay? Because that is very often God trying to warn you. Warning, because, people are given these guardian angels watching over them, and they can only do so much if you continue to just not pay attention to these warnings. I don't care if I would have had to tie this child down. But sometimes people just are like, well, I have this really bad feeling, but maybe it's just me being paranoid. You question your feelings, that, maybe it's just me. Is it just me? Because a lot of times you got society telling you, oh, you're just being overprotective, and parents these days are the opposite of what a good parent should be. So when you get someone like this mom that was like trying to protect her child, you get other people just saying, no, don't be. So that's probably going through your mind that, am I just being paranoid? You start to question yourself when so many people around you question you being a good parent. I knew where my kids were at all times because I know the evil that's out there. Okay, when you have a childhood like I did, and you were constantly being attacked by people and abused, and everywhere I went, it was just more people that were just doing terrible things to me. So I was not going to let that happen to my kids, and so I'm sure was very overly protective of my kids. But they're alive. Okay, they're still alive, and that's saying something these days. So you got to give this mom some credit for at least trying, but heed those warnings, because that's a good example of likely what was going on there. Was the Holy Spirit trying to tell her that something was very wrong there. So anyway, moving on to the next article. U.S. officials say Pentagon committed to understanding UFO origins. May 17th, 2 senior U.S. Defense Intelligence officials said on Tuesday the Pentagon is committed to determining the origins of what it calls unidentified aerial phenomena, commonly termed UFOs, but acknowledged many remain beyond the government's ability to explain. The 2 officials, Ronald Moultrie and Scott Bray, appeared before a House of Representatives Intelligence Subcommittee for the first public U.S. congressional hearing on the subject in a half-century. It came 11 months after a government report documented more than 140 cases of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, that U.S. military pilots had observed since 2004. So this, again, I think is just kind of all of the lead-in to what is coming during the Great Tribulation. I think that people are being set up and conditioned for something that's going to be connected to these aliens, which are not good guys. All right, so this is just kind of part of that you can see being all put into play. The next one says, NNSA working with federal, state, and local partners to hold major radiological incident exercise in Austin, May 16th through the 20th. This is kind of a sketchy red flag. Cobalt Magnet exercise will bring numerous agencies together to ensure preparedness. More than 30 local, state, and federal agencies will hold a major radiological incident exercise in Austin, Texas during the week of May 16th through the 20th. The Cobalt Magnet 22 exercise, which is led by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration, that's what that stands for, brings numerous agencies together to ensure preparedness against radiologic threats. Cobalt Magnet 22 is the culmination of 18 months of planning by local, state, and federal responders. By the way, 18 months, 6 plus 6 plus 6, nothing going on there. Taking place at various locations around the city. The exercise will stimulate a radiological attack, enabling response personnel to practice protecting public health and safety, providing emergency relief to affected populations, and restoring essential services. This is kind of sketchy with all of these threats going on. And if you look at things like the iPad Go with the little nuclear mushroom in the background, and you look at most importantly, you look at all of the scripture that sounds like it is warning us of a some type of nuclear incident in the United States during the tribulation. I personally think that this is just my opinion, based on what I know from the Bible, from my reoccurring dream of New York City being wiped out by a nuke, and some of the stuff that it talks about with Mystery Babylon, which I think is the United States, being some type of like radioactive wasteland, because the description of people and what they will look like and the problems that they'll be having is things like their skin will all melt off. They'll have no hair, they'll be bald, which sounds like people losing their hair from the effects of radiation. Sores. And also when it talks about Mystery Babylon being dark forever, the power never goes back on, and it talks about boats, ships being distance away looking at Babylon in disbelief that it's been wiped out like this, but being unable to get too close makes it sound like it's radioactive and you can't, that would be one reason why you couldn't come too close to an area like Chernobyl, because you'd get sick. So that makes sense to me. And then seeing people preparing for such an event just sounds really, really scary to me. And I'll tell you something that really freaks me out. Let me finish this article and then I'll tell you something about why it concerns me of the location of where this is being done. It says, during the week, members of the public may see field teams in protective clothing using radiological monitoring and detection equipment, low-flying aircraft conducting data gathering over flights, and groups of first responders and others staged at various locations. The exercise is part of a regular program of training, exercises, and planning by which NNSA and federal, state, and local partners prepare to protect public health and safety. The men and women of the Nuclear Emergency Support Team, or NEST, are trained to provide decision makers with timely, actionable scientific advice during fearful events, said Jay Tilden, DOE's Deputy Undersecretary for Counterterrorism and Counterproliferation. Saving lives and reducing the impact of a nuclear incident requires a full understanding of what happened, who will be affected, and what the optimal response should be. NEST's bread and butter is providing that information to local, state, and federal leaders as rapidly as possible. NEST is NNSA's multi-mission nuclear emergency response capability, providing highly trained and equipped scientists and technical experts to contend with an conceivable nuclear and radiological challenge. During Cobalt Magnet, NEST will provide radiological monitoring and assessment assistance to state and local leaders to make informed public health and safety decisions. NEST will also work with local, state, and federal law enforcement to conduct radiological search operations and identify potential threat devices. So it's really just coincidental that they just happen to be doing all of this, preparing like this. But one of the things that really sketched me out about that this was happening in Texas is there is this really disturbing game, a video game called 7 Days to Die. And I have been thinking about doing a video on this particular game because it's so much like what I have been concerned about for the United States being Mystery Babylon. Because, for one, 7 days, come on, that's tribulation. Tribulation is 7 days, which equals 7 years in biblical time. And during this game, there are zombies that come out and they attack you during the day. They're faster and like enraged at night, which has really bothered me because of another dream that my daughter had that was about people becoming, oh man, I really would love to have her come on and tell you this because I don't want to repeat it wrong. But it was something where people were affected by the sunlight during the day, and people had to hide indoors away from people that were violent. I don't remember whether it was during the day or at night. I'll have to talk to her and get more details on this. But it was, people were eating people like a zombie. And this is such a common thing. And their coloration was like a dark bluish green color. And after she had this dream, I had come across another dream because I was looking into it. I was like, I wonder if anybody else has had this kind of dream. And there was someone else, a young girl that had a very elaborate dream about this same sort of thing, and the coloration was exactly the same. And anyway, I'll have to try to get the details on that. But regardless, in this this game, they also have like a blood moon. Every 7 days is this blood moon, and during this blood moon, all of these zombies are like enraged, and they all come after you on that day, and you have to defend against them because they're all like in this fit of rage that they do because of blood moon. And then what bothers me about this Texas thing is there's different like biomes. There's like a winter area, and there's like a plains, and there's various cities and different like foresty area and stuff. But then there's this one area that is like people, it's like burned out, like there had been a nuclear like the whole place was burned, and everything is like blackened, and everything is, the buildings are half gone, and the people that are, the zombies that are walking around there are all like burnt. And then there's this like a junky area where everything is like radioactive. Like you can't go into this one area, and it's all red, and you can't walk past this barrier. And there's a sign that when you see this sign, you know you're probably getting close to this area, and it's that area. It's like Texas, Arizona, Las Vegas, that out that way in the west on that area, and that's where like a nuclear bomb had gone off, and it's radioactive, and the animals are radioactive, and you can't cross this line, or you immediately start dying if you go past this line. And that is what kind of sketches me out, knowing that they do so many things in video games and movies that are based on real biblical stuff. And a lot of stuff is based on what's coming in the Great Tribulation, and people don't even realize that that's what this stuff is. Satan is behind a lot of the people, gives people these ideas of what to do in music and movies and things like that. That's why it ends up being like predictive programming, because Satan knows what's coming. He knows what's going on, and so do all of his like ministers of evil, people that are working for him, and demons that are working for him. And there are a lot of people on this planet that are actually working for that side. Okay, I know this. I mean, everybody probably knows this that are believers at this point, but I know this personally from actually being forced to be in with this cult, this satanic cult that I was born into and escaped. So I know that there are definitely people that are in great positions of power and stuff that are actually worshiping Lucifer. So in any case, I just thought that just kind of gave me a vibe of like, don't really like the location of this thing being in Texas. And also, part of me just has this weird feeling that, have you noticed how they are drawing conservatives to certain areas by putting it in the news so much that, oh, well, this area is allowing all of these conservative things. There's people fighting for you guys in this spot. You should all move to Florida. You should all move to Texas because those are the best areas for conservatives. It just doesn't it make you wonder if something's going to happen in those two areas? Like they're trying to gather all of the Christian population or the conservatives, the people that are going to be a problem for these people during the Great Tribulation, to these areas so they can wipe them all out at once. That's just a feeling that I get. That's not something that I have insider info on or anything. But it's just, you tend to make an educated guess at things sometimes when you've had when you've lived a few years, okay, when you've been around the block a bit with these people, you tend to recognize their MO a bit, and you know how they work. And that's something that I've been thinking ever since I started to see all of this stuff going on with Texas, where they were like, yeah, I'll come to Texas if you want to be if you're a conservative, because here you can have more freedoms, and come to Florida because we don't do this and we don't do that, and it's a much better area for people that are conservatives. And so people flocked to those areas. I just thought that was just kind of interesting. So we'll have to watch those areas closely and see if that's the case. Sometimes you might want to just pray about where you should live. Pray about where God wants you to be, because God knows what's best for you. But most likely, if you believe in God and you've believed on the gospel and what Jesus did on the cross for you and every one of us, and you have accepted that, then you are likely not going to be here for that. But it's that in-betweeny stage when you don't really know what day we're going to be taken out, and there's going to be that transition period where we are going to, obviously we're here for some of it. We're still here right now. So you have to be smart about what you do with your time and your family right now while we are still here. So anyway, next headline: Newark mother calls for justice after attackers beat autistic son and post video online. This is just heartbreaking to me. Shannon Davenport is speaking out after she says her autistic son was beaten in Newark Thursday evening. A video clip posted online appears to show a group of people beating her 16-year-old son, Caleb, on a canal path in the village as he waited for her to pick him up. She says they stole his sneakers and cell phone and left him unconscious on the trail. Davenport says a man found Caleb on the trail and called 911. The beating was so bad that he had to be taken to Strong Memorial Hospital to be treated for a concussion. It's terrible. And he was taken a long way. That's Strong Memorial Hospital is where I had brain surgery. That's considerable away from Newark. So they must have had he must have had a reason to need a really good big hospital. Caleb is autistic, and his an intellectual disability and has a very apparent speech impediment, she said. So these kids knew this about him, and they still proceeded to attack him violently. Caleb is at home now, still healing. He did not want to appear on camera for this story, saying he was afraid of more of these kids seeing his face and coming after him. Davenport says it's been a whirlwind the past few days, and we've been so busy trying to get the word out to the sheriff to find out who these people are, going to appointments for Caleb. We have to get counseling appointments. We've had to have follow-up appointments. He's been taken out of school for 2 weeks because of the concussion. There are multiple contusions all over his head, said Davenport. It's just, they always pick on the weakest in the group and the most innocent, and it's just getting worse and worse, where it's so scary of an area you just don't know where to go anymore. I mean, there's just areas that used to be safe, that you thought were okay. There's so much violent stuff going on where I live, and everywhere, I'm sure. But it's just horrifying to think that people have to worry so hard about where their kids are going and if they're going to be safe. I can't even fathom sending my kids to public school anymore. There's no way. If my kids were little, I would be homeschooling them. There's no way that I would send my kids to a public school these days. And I'm so thankful that my daughter is homeschooling my grandson, because it's an evil setup right now. Okay, next one, and this is the last of the headlines, and then I'm going to go over something else at the end. This grandma was arrested for praying silently while walking outside. Chilling effect on freedom. A grandmother who was arrested in the UK for walking and praying silently near an abortion clinic is still waiting trial a year after her arrest. Unbelievable. A grandmother who was arrested, the same thing. According to the Christian legal group Alliance Defending Freedom UK, Rosa Laylor left her home in Liverpool on February 24th, 2021 to enjoy a walk outdoors. The activity was permitted during the COVID-19 pandemic as a form of exercise. On that particular day, she walked past an abortion clinic and prayed silently. Layler wore a face mask and kept a distance from others. A police officer stopped the 76-year-old and asked why she was outdoors. When she said that she was walking and praying, the officer reportedly told her that she did not have a reasonable excuse to be outside and accused her of protesting. First off, why aren't you allowed to protest unless you're only allowed to protest if it is for the evil satanic stuff that they want to do? If you're part of BLM or one of the people protesting the many evil causes out there, they're allowed to. But this lady wasn't even protesting, first off, and she wasn't even praying out loud. So, but why can't you, to think of the UK becoming where you can't even pray legally without being arrested, that's a really scary state of affairs. We see this going on when you look at my prayer videos of the persecution that's going on of the Christian church in third world countries and stuff, where it's illegal to be a Christian. You kind of are starting to expect that more and more in those areas, but the UK is becoming like this, and Australia too. And soon you're going to see it everywhere. Obviously Canada. Look at Canada. So it's going to become more and more, and that is one of the warnings that the Bible gave us about the last days, that it would be more and more that it would be persecution of the church. So that's it for the headlines for this week, but I did want to leave off with a list of the some of the top things that the World Health Organization is looking at for diseases that are a concern right now, contagious diseases. Okay, so the latest WHO diseases outbreak news, DONs, providing information on confirmed acute public health events or potential events of concern. I'm just going to read, I'm not going to go into the details of these, but I just wanted to read the most recent ones that are listed. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus in Oman, cholera in Cameroon, monkeypox in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This is a weird new thing that's popping up. That seems to be, I'll just say, a weird new thing that seems to be like what used to be AIDS. We're starting to see a couple of things pop up that are similar to that are isolated to people in the rainbow crowd. That it's a disease that's specific to them, and that's one of them. Very strange. Lassa fever in Guinea. Let's see. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, MERS, and COV. That's in Qatar. MERS is one of the things that you see coming from camels. Camels spit and they have all kinds of bacteria. And so you see a lot of that in Middle Eastern countries where they have camels. And it's kind of sort of in the same family, I think, as COVID. I think it's got a little bit of some crossover there, but that's what that is. Avian influenza H3N8 in China, avian influenza A in H5N1 in the U.S., Japanese encephalitis in Australia. That's interesting. Ebola virus disease in Democratic Republic of the Congo. So that's still going on in Congo. That's kind of scary. We got to keep an eye on that. Measles in Somalia. Cholera in Malawi. Multi-country outbreak of salmonella. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this. But it's salmonella in chocolate in Europe and the United States. Now, this is really interesting too. I got my daughter one of those monthly snack boxes, those international snack boxes. I think it's called Yums. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, where they send you a box each month with different snacks and treats from a different country each month. And the one that she just got from Israel was recalled because of the chocolate for this reason. But it's not listing, it's saying Europe and the United States, but this was in Israel. So I don't know if that's the same thing or what, but it's just kind of weird that it's chocolate. Both of the items were chocolate that were in question. And they had said that that's something that has never in their history, this is one of the biggest distributors in Israel for years and years and years, and they've never had a recall like this. So that was just interesting. Next one, yellow fever in Uganda. Multi-country acute severe hepatitis of unknown origin in children. Now, this is something you've probably heard of. This is a weird and scary thing that hepatitis is spreading among kids. What is going on with that? That is something that you don't hear too much in the actual news, but this is a scary, weird new thing that's going on. I think we should probably keep an eye on. And if anyone has more information on that, I'd love to know. Next one, circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 3 in Israel. So is that saying that they're getting a polio virus from vaccines? What? I'll have to go back and look more in detail on that one. That's in Israel. I haven't heard of this. Weird. Acute hepatitis of unknown etiology, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So another hepatitis thing going on. Great Britain and Northern Ireland have got their issues right now. Middle East respiratory syndrome, that's again MERS in Saudi Arabia. See again where there's a lot of camels hanging out. Yellow fever, Kenya. Why does it just list that twice? That's odd. But yellow fever is very common in that area. Also in like the Philippines, they tend to have yellow fever. Extensively drug-resistant Shigella sinai infections in Europe. This is another one that I was talking about, like the monkeypox. This is strictly isolated to the rainbow crowd. So, I don't know what's going on there, but this is like the new AIDS, it seems like. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And then the last one, Lassa fever in Togo. That Lassa fever is a really scary thing like Ebola. And so that, I'm kind of keeping an eye on that to see if that makes the rounds, if that gets around anywhere else. Because that was in the UK. So I don't know. I don't like any of this hemorrhagic stuff. That's kind of scary to me. But as you know, that there is all of this culling of the birds in the United States right now because of the bird flu. And that's another whole topic. And it's really hard to talk openly about that on here without getting censored. But I do have some concerns about that because of the way that there are so many things going on at one time that are working together to wipe out the food and drink, so that, you know, it seems like it would be setting up the Antichrist system where they control all of the food, and you won't be able to get it without the mark of the beast. So that we're seeing going on. When you think about all these fires that went on that burned down all of these food plants and stuff, and then you've got them culling all of the birds, that's kind of, and then the war being blamed for wheat. The biggest one is wheat, obviously, because the Bible talks about that being something where it'll cost you a day's wages for a loaf of bread. And we can see that's being set up. That's obviously a thing. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that'll happen in the very near future, because look how fast the prices of things are going up. I cannot believe how much it costs for stuff here. And just for an example, my husband went and was going to get a pack of 6 of Bounty paper towels where we live the other day. $25. And it wasn't even the big rolls. It was the little ones. And at the time, you know, we were just like going to get a small amount so that we could then wait until we got out to civilization, where maybe it would be a little bit cheaper. So he got just 2, and it was almost $7 for 2 really skinny little rolls. So it's nuts. And milk is like $5.50 a gallon here. I don't know what it's like in your area. We should do something where we all kind of give like a report on our area and what the cost of food is and what this status is of availability for stuff. I'd love to do a video on that, like, regularly, and I'll go to the stores and stuff here and just kind of take pictures of what is happening here. So anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well. That is it for today's headlines. I thought that this would just give a little sneaky peeky of what's going on around this week without reading entirely full articles on it, and not having time to do a little bit of everything. So I know that there's a lot of other stuff going on, but a lot of other people have covered some of the, the big things that are happening. But I thought these might be things you might not have had all that information already. So I hope that you guys are doing well. And until next time, guys, I love you. God bless you, and I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.